So, do you ever wonder where you would use any of this stuff? Well, one in particular example is for the circumference of an inflated basketball. It must measure between 27.75 and 28.5 inches. So write this as an absolute value inequality. Absolute value because it saves space when we're writing rather than a compound inequality. Hopefully you recognize this as a compound inequality and as an AND inequality. So if we write this as an AND inequality, we're going to do 27.75 is less than, let's use C as our variable for circumference, is less than 28.5. So that's where we start. Actually, it should be less than or equal to, right? Because it could be equal to that as well. We need to find a couple of things. The first thing we need to do is we need to find what's called the tolerance. Okay? So for the tolerance, that's just the measure between the lowest and the highest point. So we can take 28.5 and subtract out 27.75 and divide that by 2 because that's halfway between those two measures. When you do that, you get 0.75 over 2, which is 0.375 inches. Okay? The other measure that we need is the average values. Okay? The average value tells us how far from one or the other we are making this, making the measurements. So to get the average, we take 28.5 plus 27.75 and divide by 2. When you divide this out, you're going to get 28.125 inches. Once we have those two measures, we can then write this as an absolute value inequality. And the way to do that, first of all, let's write this as a compound inequality. So our lowest position, our lowest measurement is negative 0.375 inches. Less than or equal to C minus 28.5, less than or equal to positive 0.375 inches. Okay, so once we write it like that, now we see that the two ends are exactly the same except they are different signs. So to write this as an absolute value inequality, all we have to do is we write C minus 28.5 absolute value of less than or equal to 0.375 because the circumference minus the greatest value has to be within 0.375 inches. Okay, if not, then it'll go beyond the lowest value. I hope that makes sense. Please ask questions and work on this, and we'll get back to it during direct.